Hi everyone, welcome to the Sprouts podcast. Today we have Ritesh here with us, who's the co-founder for Leap Onboard. He's going to talk about his journey, the GTM motion that works for Leap Onboard, and what has his learnings been so far building a product. Interestingly, he was running a services company and has transitioned into product. So we're going to ask you about that as well. But tell us a little bit about Leap Onboard first.
So Leap Onboard is a very innovative candidate to employee experience platform. So it helps companies build a sense of belonging with candidates from the moment you interview them and helps influence a transition from the interview to an offer and then to joining and beyond. So we believe that enabling HR teams to create compelling posts which are very immersive and sequencing them into a campaign that gets delivered to the right person at the right time builds the sense of belonging. And as an HR person, you're able to achieve outcomes such as improved joining conversions and employee retention. So that's Leap Onboard.
Very interesting. So who would be the person actually using? So within HR team, would it be the recruitment, like the recruitment team, or you're also talking to the main companies, or also the agencies who also hire? Because a lot of time companies do talk to agencies to do their hiring.
Right.
So who's the target audience here?
So
the companies or the agencies?
So I would say we have two kinds of ideal customers. So the first ideal customer would be the companies which are in the IT and ITES spaces, as well as knowledge. I would say companies broadly are operating in the knowledge economy. This could be even banking and financial services and so on. Having said that, we do have large manufacturing companies which want to differentiate themselves and be a company that serves as an attractive employer of choice for the prospective candidates. So we have some interest which has come from such entities, but our ideal customer, the way we defined it, having spoken to a lot of customers, it seemed to come from the ITES space because they have a very unique challenge, especially in India.
Right.
And so that's one customer persona. And this phenomenon is also across the world and not just in India. It's called candidate ghosting. So let me just take a step back and just tell you what ghosting means. Ghosting essentially implies that after a candidate has shown an interest in a job, so they've shown an interest in a job and they've applied for it, but suddenly switch off and don't respond back to the company. So this ghosting could happen after an interview, or it could even happen after an offer and so on. And all the way until the date of joining, you wouldn't know if the person has joined you or not. So that is candidate ghosting in a nutshell. Just to give you some benchmark numbers, Indeed, the job portal, last December released a statistic that said even in economies like the US, UK and Canada, between 1 and 4, 78% of the employees that they surveyed admitted having ghosted between 1 and 4 employers. So that's the broad,
big
number, both abroad as well as in India. So that's one customer persona. The second is, as you mentioned, the staffing companies themselves, because they generate billing based on whether they place a candidate at a target company. So that's a smaller, I would say a smaller persona or a smaller TAM in some sense. But the larger TAM, the industry that we're targeting, are basically companies which have an in-house team. They do have a recruitment team that's trying to place candidates, but they're all trying to place candidates in different roles. They could be hiring a UX designer, a marketing person, a salesperson. Within technology, we have roles like DevOps and agile project manager. So there are a host of different roles that you're hiring for. Not every role is the same. Not every designation is the same. So the expectations of the people you're bringing in is quite different. So I think the major use case that we are seeing is in the first ICP that I mentioned.
Right. So over to my last question, which is around your experience as running a services company vis-a-vis now building a product and launching that in the market. How has that journey been different? And what advice would you give to folks out there who run service agencies and they feel there is a product fit wherein they can launch a product? How should they go about it? What's your advice for them?
Okay. So I'll just take this question in two parts, right? I'll rephrase, or I'll make the first question. If somebody is doing a services company and they're thinking about products, how should they think about products? And the second part is, if you're building a product, how should you try to think about building a product? Right? I mean, I'll probably address these two parts. Today, one of the big challenges in a services company is the way the mindset of a services company is that it's very incremental, right? And it's very headcount driven in some sense. So it's easy to go from 0 to 0.1 to 0.2, sort of in a linear fashion. The more people you add, you sort of are able to build more and able to, grow your company in that fashion. My own perspective is that while companies try to talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking, etc., run internal hackathons and try to see how we can leverage AI and build their own skill sets. I mean, that's one way to think about it. But really, I think the DNA, right? If I mean, from at least from speaking to a lot of leaders in services space, when I used to ask them, are they thinking about products? A lot of them who are have to drive numbers are it's a very numbers driven kind of a dynamic, right? So they don't have the luxury of making investments into products. Between the 0 to 1, there's a huge chasm, right? So the mindset is very, very tough. So a lot of services companies, well, they want to get into products, but when the rubber hits the road, that's when they will back off and say, this is a huge expenditure for us. This is possibly going to make us miss our margins, and will probably step back. Having said it, so I think one way for my advice for services companies would be that if you have the luxury to sort of make investments, you are your own boss in the sense that if you're not reporting into a larger entity or a corporate or a private equity firm, etc., where you need to deliver numbers, then possibly the road ahead is going to be a little tough for you. Then you should probably think of running hackathons, internal challenges, etc., to sort of move your employee skill set from where it is now to constantly evolve those challenges. But if you have the luxury, let's say you are a profitable services company, you want to now think and you sort of work across several clients in a particular industry, you have some background. Let's say it could be you're building products for the circus industry, for whatever, let's say the entertainment industry, and you have a lot of clients in different markets and have some unique insights, and you think now you can build a product, right? And obviously there's one challenge in the services company. You'll have to be very careful that the IP that you're building for one client, the client owns the IP, they're paying you for that IP. But regardless of that, if you're able to create from scratch and have some unique insight for a particular industry and want to build a product for it, that's a great way to jump into products. Now the second part of the question is, how do you think about building enterprise products? And my advice would be that you need to think of user experience design. And a huge shout out from our side at Leap Onboard to our third co-founder, Shiva Viswanathan. He's a well-known name in the Indian user experience design space. He's also one of the people behind the Design Up conference that's held annually in Bangalore. And the reason I talk about user experience design and Shiva so highly is that it's very important for enterprise products to differentiate on user experience design. And it's not it's a must-have and not a good to have. Oftentimes, enterprise products don't seem like they're designed for people. No, they're very, very hard to use. The reason for that is when enterprise products are being sold, you're probably selling it to the CXO, right? The head of finance, head of HR, people, etc. And at that point, you're so focused on the benefits, right? It's going to move this outcome, improve this profitability, and so on and so forth. And those are the kind of messages that they want to hear. When you tell them that it's very easy to use, that's kind of, they find it they don't want to hear the actual because they want to know the outcomes first. But the person who's using the product needs to find it very, very easy to use, intuitive. It needs to be well designed. Today, if you look at consumer products, be it Facebook, etc., you will find them, they're very, very easy to use. But enterprise products are not designed that way, because the way you design it is more like an engineering design, and the sale happens at a very, very high level. The users, actual users of the product, tend to, they don't seem to have a voice in the room in some sense. So that's where I think there is, while products get sold, the utilization of products is probably not up to the expectation, or they don't ultimately achieve the benefits that was originally that companies were aiming for.
What you're saying is right. The users might not be the decision makers. However, they become advocates of your products in the companies that they will go in the future. They will tell their CEOs that this is the product I want to use because it's easy and I'm already trained on it, and it's better than anything else that I've ever used.
Absolutely.
So I think getting those advocates free of cost, that's pretty much important, and that's what design does. Thank you so much, Ritesh, for giving us this time today and sitting with us today. And thank you so much, audience, for listening into us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Swati.
Thank you.